2017 is finished, so let's rank some movies, from the funny and dramatic to the scary and gloomy. Horror stories kept me on edge, I have to confess, while lesser-known movies really impressed. It seemed like some actors just wanted their checks. Not even D'Addario could save these wrecks. We enjoyed Babysitter and Baby Driver, but it's no surprise which films were box office survivors. Big-budget action movies were fun to review, especially Keanu in John Wick Chapter 2. Wasting time on these duds was regrettable, especially since they were just plain forgettable. From Galaxy Guardians to the Justice League, I wouldn't blame anyone for having superhero fatigue. A few sequels deserve their disappointing fate, while 8th installments turned out pretty great. These attractive people may need to regroup, as every single one was stuck in a time loop. Animals and Apes once again made their mark, but it was family animation that gave us a spark. Award contenders also made a splash, even if I wince when limbs got smashed. It's no wonder why these characters were thrilled. After long last, their dreams were fulfilled. Whether you hated Dunkirk or defended Bright, it's time to review, because this is Movie Night. Hello and welcome to Movie Night. I'm your host, Jonathan Paula. Tonight, in my 4th annual cinematic retrospective, we're changing things up. In this big single episode dedicated to the movies of 2017, I'll be awarding superlatives, ranking the worst films, and highlighting my 15 favorites. But let's start with something I wish more people actually did, and list the films they did and didn't see, by sharing my year in review page courtesy Letterboxd.com. Thanks to a sustained and disciplined effort, I saw 506 total movies in 2017, which bested my previous record by nearly 150 films. Of the 396 I saw for the first time, and even 100 were new releases, and eligible for tonight's list. Plus, I squeezed in another 10 in the last couple weeks as last-minute preparation for this retrospective, which was a good call as several actually snuck onto my list. If you'd like to dive deeper into my film-watching analytics, read over 200 of my unfilmed reviews, or browse a catalog of every movie I've ever seen, please head over to my profile at letterboxd.com/JohnPaula. Now that all that housekeeping is out of the way, let's begin with my superlatives section and my first award, the funniest movie of 2017. Now honestly, I'd love to pick one of Dave Chappelle's comedy specials for this category, since he did release 4 of them last year and they were all fantastic. But if we're sticking with proper movies, my vote for funniest film of the year goes to the Lego Batman Movie. Another amusing, family-friendly adventure that perfectly satirizes the comic book genre with some excellent references to the Batman franchise. Will Arnett kept me laughing the entire time. The symbolic and artistic Mother was definitely the weirdest film of 2017. Despite the claustrophobic camera work and increasingly disturbing narrative, it was the phenomenal acting that helped keep this confusing parable somewhat watchable. Patient viewers with religious backgrounds will likely appreciate this one the most, but outside of its cinematic accomplishments, I can't say I enjoyed it too much. Excluding the horror movies that we'll talk about a bit later, Gerald's Game gets my pick for scariest of the year. Not in the jump scare, monster gore kind of way, but in the ever-present fear kind of way. Adapted from a Stephen King story, the single-room narrative is literally anchored by an astonishingly raw performance from the gorgeous Carla Gugino. Handcuffed to a bed with no possible rescue or escape, her growing psychological dread is what makes this Mike Flanagan thriller a real winner. The most surprising film of last year has to be Girls Trip. Now this may shock you, but I am not the target demographic for this female-focused African-American road trip comedy, but I'll be damned if I didn't enjoy the hell out of it. With some great messages concerning friendship and personal identity, it was a breakout role from Tiffany Haddish that glued everything together. The whole thing kept me pleasantly entertained throughout. Now to be fair, I really enjoyed Logan, but in the larger scope of superhero films, this serious and gritty treatment didn't impress me as much as it seemed to for everyone else. Hugh Jackman was fantastic, as always, but having his swan song focus on a new mutant child instead of him wasn't a direction I particularly enjoyed. It was a solid send-off for some fan-favorite characters, but this sadly wasn't close to the franchise's best. I thought it was somewhat overrated. On the flip side of that coin, I found King Arthur Legend of the Sword to be vastly underrated. Far too many dismiss this as a lame swords and shields film, but Guy Ritchie's kinetic and modern approach really worked for me. The quintessential period piece popcorn flick, this is a whiz-bang adventure with time-tested characters, and worth giving a second look. Although Hans Zimmer's intense score for Dunkirk challenged audiences with its aggressiveness, it's the music from The Shape of Water that was the best of the year. Alexandre Desplat expertly blends accordions, woodwinds, and flutes for a whimsical and romantic sound. Resembling the best bits from Up and Super Mario Galaxy, this is the perfect backdrop to Guillermo del Toro's beautiful and unique sci-fi romance. Adapting a hugely popular brand with super attractive leads should have been an easy win for director Seth Gordon, but Baywatch strays far too much from its iconic premise, spending more time examining a dead man's ball sack than boob-bouncing lifeguarding. With so much wasted potential, this washed-up and unfunny bore is a disservice to its namesake and the most disappointing film of 2017. Combining familiar trends in recent action films, director Joe Lynch once again impresses with a gory shock fest in Mayhem. The contained environment and high-concept plot allow for truly satisfying, hyperactive violence, led by charismatic performers. Since this is a VOD release late in the year, it seems many haven't discovered it yet, which is why I'm naming this super fun, shut-your-brain-off experience as the most overlooked film of last year. Besides that hyperspace kamikaze move in The Last Jedi, my vote for best moment of the year goes to the funeral scene at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. The poignant folk rock sounds of Cat Stevens help deliver this goofy comic book franchise to heretofore unseen emotional depths. It's a beautiful, tear-jerking coda that illustrates just how special these characters have become. Now let's pivot to section 2 of tonight's special episode and discuss my least favorite films of 2017. Despite its somewhat earned reputation, this sci-fi comedy film isn't entirely terrible. Sure, it's boring, unfocused, and trite as hell, but never offensively so. Young kids might actually find some enjoyment here, and I'm embarrassed to admit it actually elicited a few chuckles out of me as well. Ignoring opportunities to provide commentary on its admirable theme, the movie opts for clumsy poop gags instead. Hardly this year's most awful release, the Emoji Movie is simply a forgettable and lame experience. It gets my pick for 10th worst of the year. Yeah, it isn't. I mean, at this point, it's my own fault for expecting anything in the impossibly virile Sharknado franchise to be competently constructed, but I did. And once again, I was shocked at how ridiculous this movie was. You can't just create a so bad it's good movie intentionally, something sci-fi still hasn't figured out yet. And all of the shark teleporting D-list celebrity cameos aren't gonna fix that either. Global Swarming is a lame movie and the 8th worst of the year. It's the sexy fetish movie for lonely virgins who have never seen a naked body before. 50 Shades Darker lowers the bar even more than its tepid and badly acted predecessor. DJ and JD can't maintain even the barest level of interest in the script, let alone their on-screen chemistry. Poor dialogue, ridiculous plot developments, and boring eroticism land this film at number 7. Altitude mishandles its cast of Hollywood has-beens by having them play against type in uninteresting ways. The sets, acting, and visual effects are only marginally better than a feature-length porno. Now, it should be easy to manufacture tension with a high-altitude hijacking, but the passengers react to the deadly takeover like they're ignoring a Metro announcement. With lackluster thrills and tired developments, this predictably bad direct-to-video film is the 6th worst of 2017. With 4 of the best boobs in the business, The Layover should have been a layup. Instead of getting a raunchy and sexy rom-com though, we suffered through a juvenile road trip that wasted our time with disgusting toilet humor and loathsome characters. And why does Alexander Daddario leave her clothes on during sex? Director William H. Macy went out of his way to screw that up. This blue-balling experience is the 5th worst of the year. This sci-fi drama attempts to pretend the ubiquity of social media exposure, but it's 20 years too late. The wholly unbelievable story feels like a rejected 1990s spec script on the dangers of 21st century technology. Like, oh no, have you heard of this, the internet? What if people use it to share private aspects of their lives? Not even the super likable Emma Watson and Tom Hanks can save this from mediocrity. The Circle places 4th. The Snowman is needlessly vague, long-winded, and a chore to sit through. Michael Fassbender and the rest of the usually capable actors seem either half-cocked or half asleep. Seemingly disinterested in its own subject matter, this crime procedural only succeeds in leaving audiences confused or irritated. Entire plot threads are abandoned, the twists are unearned, and the dialogue is stiffer than a breeze coming off a Norwegian fjord. Intentionally obtuse under the pretense of being artistic, the 3rd worst film is nothing more than indecipherable trash. The silver medal of shit goes to a picture you hopefully haven't heard of, Singularity. This cheaply made dystopian action film isn't just astonishingly derivative, it's also offensively bland. But it does earn John Cusack the unfortunate distinction of appearing near the bottom of my list for the 2nd year in a row. He's literally in his own movie here, and I don't mean like figuratively. His single scene sets were reportedly filmed 4 years after principal photography wrapped, which is obvious since he never interacts directly with any of the main characters. If the concept, themes, and ideas weren't trite as hell, there might actually be some entertainment value here. Sadly, it's just another garbage bin disappointment with Cusack on the cover. But the absolute worst movie is The Institute. Wasting a perfectly good premise and a decently macabre setting, an insane asylum at the turn of the 20th century, this horror thriller is nothing but a rote affair with emotionless characters and hackneyed developments. I swear James Franco directed, produced, and starred in this picture on a mustache-wearing dare, because the film, and his entire performance, is nothing but a joyless exercise. The drawn-out drama feels like a watered-down Eyes Wide Shut, if it were performed by freshman theater students high on antidepressants. Poorly lit, badly acted, and dreadfully unengaging, The Institute is easily the worst film released in 2017. Enough negativity though, now it's time for the final portion of the show where I rank my favorite films of last year. Let's begin by highlighting the 5 movies that didn't quite make my top 10. In no particular order, these honorable mentions are The Babysitter, a fun and flashy send-up of 80s slashers with endearing characters. Baby Driver illustrated how a top-notch soundtrack can transform a traditional heist film into edge-of-your-seat entertainment. Kong Skull Island readapted the Hollywood classic by mixing gorgeous cinematography and harrowing action with thrilling results. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 may be Marvel's most emotionally effective movie yet, and Gal Gadot rocked the box office with her fierce and beautiful portrayal as Wonder Woman, the best entry in the DCEU by a country mile. And now, without further ado, the best movies of 2017. Brawl in Cell Block 99 wasn't just criminally overlooked last year, it was also a gritty and gory prison thriller that completely surprised me. Told with a quiet and understated style, the crime drama is anchored by a career-best performance from a nearly unrecognizable Vince Vaughn. Filled with twists, turns, and plenty of violence, this tragic and powerful movie lands in my 10th spot. Part coming-of-age drama, part nightmare fuel, the second film adaptation of Stephen King's It is as relatable as it is frightening. The richly inventive story about an unexplained force that preys on children's fears as physical manifestations makes for some positively creepy moments, all aided by a sterling cast of talented youngsters. Playing out like an R-rated Stranger Things, this was my 9th favorite film of the year. When it comes to animation, this is Pixar's world and we're all just living in it. Coco isn't just a vibrant and respectful celebration of Mexican culture, it's also a wonderfully unique and colorful adventure that all ages will enjoy. A fast-moving story that reaffirms the importance of family and following your dreams. It's hard to leave this film without an optimistic smile on your face. I'm ranking it 8th. My 7th favorite film of the year happens to be the 9th in its impossibly long-running franchise about talking animals, War for the Planet of the Apes. From the astonishingly exciting battle sequences to the flawless visual effects, it's the incredible performances from Andy Serkis and Woody Harrelson that put this picture over the top. A triumphant conclusion to the 21st century reboot trilogy. Nolan has done it again. Despite a lack of historical depth or character development, Dunkirk is a powerful and relentless experience that proves practical filmmaking is far from dead. From the visceral sound mix of beachside gunfire to the realistic aerial dogfights, this is a monumental achievement in blockbuster filmmaking and the 6th best film of 2017. John Wick Chapter 2 isn't just a sizable improvement over its tightly crafted predecessor, it's also the best pure action film of the decade. A furious blend of expertly choreographed neo-noir gunplay with intriguing world building. Oozing with beautiful style and impressive stunt work, my 5th favorite film is astonishingly fun too. At number 4 is Star Wars The Last Jedi. While many fanboys were overly critical of the latest installment in the epic space fantasy series, I absolutely adored the direction and risks this picture took. Funny, introspective, and even awe-inspiring, not even a few plot holes or an extraneous side quest deterred my feverish enjoyment. A complex, beautifully filmed, and satisfying adventure. This is an amazing film. Hugh Jackman anchors the excitement in my bronze medal winner. The directorial debut from Michael Gracey is a dazzling onslaught of old-fashioned cinema and a clear affront to stale historical biopics. With beautiful music, defiant anthems, and colorful set pieces, this is the type of big, fun, lavish Hollywood musical we haven't seen since Chicago. Serving as both a powerful tribute and a bittersweet memorial to a bygone era, The Greatest Showman is feel-good, happiness-affirming cinema at its purest. I thought it was amazing. My runner-up is Get Out. This fantastically inventive and provocative psychological horror film from first-time director Jordan Peele challenged my perceptions of what a horror film was capable of. A unique experience with truly unexpected twists. It's the perfectly nuanced performances, evocative commentary, and visceral scares that really elevate this thriller to captivating heights. And finally, the number 1 movie is The Disaster Artist. When paying tribute to bad cinema, only a like-minded auteur could truly capture the chaotic brilliance of this plot. But since James Franco was also responsible for the worst movie of 2017, he understood how to outdo himself to create the best movie of 2017. Uproariously funny from start to finish, it's the earned moments of poignancy about creativity and aspiration that push this film over the top. An unbelievable true story about the pitfalls and possibility of unrestrained ambition. The Disaster Artist is an inspiring, hilarious, and heartfelt biopic. An absolute must-watch for all filmmakers and artists. This was my favorite movie of the entire year. 2017 really was an excellent year for cinema, at least personally. My average rating of 6.58 is the highest mark for any year since the 1980s. Last time I did this retrospective, I didn't feature a single amazing movie, but tonight I was pleased to share 6 of them. That will conclude my annual cinematic retrospective though, so I hope you enjoyed listening to all of my selections. In the next episode, for no reason at all, I'll be reviewing the Matrix trilogy, so leave your reviews as comments to be featured on the show. In the meantime, if you'd like to watch or read my full reviews for any of tonight's films, you can find direct links in the description below. Or you can click the icons on the screen now to check out more of my content. My name is Jonathan Paula, thanks for watching, and have a good movie night.